Hey guys, Weeby Newz here, and today we're going to be discussing the characters from Project Eden's Garden, and I'm going to be trying to predict which role I think they'll play in the upcoming game, so like survivor, victim, culprit, mastermind, etc. And the reason I'm making this video too is because the creators have announced that the prologue has a release window of this December, so I am super duper looking forward to that, and I wanted to come up with some theories before the prologue releases. Also, I will be linking Project Eden's Garden's YouTube page and their other links if you guys want to support them. It really looks like such a cool fan game. It's one of the ones I'm looking forward to the most, so I really recommend checking it out. And I do want to clarify that these are all just my thoughts and theories. I'm not dead set on any of them, which is why some ideas might conflict with others. Overall, I just kind of want to make a video to state the various possibilities I've come up with, since I think it's really fun to do so. Also, if you have any ideas of your own, let me know in the comment section. I also made this prediction sheet if you guys want to fill it out and share it on the subreddit. I'm really curious to see what you guys think as well. And for those of you who are unfamiliar with the project, I'll give a quick overview here. It's an upcoming free-to-play visual novel game inspired by Danganronpa. They plan to make it follow the basic story structure of Danganronpa, but unlike other Danganronpa fangans, they've stated explicitly that it won't connect at all to the canon storyline and will contain a completely new story with different characters, story elements, and even some new gameplay features. They mentioned as well that they'll be avoiding the usual Danganronpa tropes of a third chapter double murder, fourth chapter buff person dies as well. And there's also a summary of the game posted on the Discord, and I'll go ahead and read that. Eden's Garden Academy, a school designed to find the best and brightest of America's youth, has begun recruiting for its first ever class of ultimate students, teens/young adults between the ages of 13 to 24, who have displayed remarkable skills and knowledge in their respective field of study, and have decided on 16 candidates for this opening year. But things are not so clear when Damon Maitsu, the ultimate debater, finds himself waking up in a strange academy. With his 15 other classmates stuck in the same situation, they are told that a killing game will commence. It's up to Damon and his classmates to survive this killing game and uncover the secrets that lay buried under the mystery that surrounds Eden's Garden Academy. So as you can see, there's already some pretty big differences between this and the canon Danganronpa games. There's no Hope's Academy, and instead it's Eden's Garden Academy. The students are from America instead of Japan, and the age range is much larger too, ranging from 13 to 24. Another notable aspect is that the mascots of this game give off a way different vibe than Monokuma. The mascots are called Tozu and Mara. Tozu's bio reads, "The self-declared host of the killing game, Headmaster Tozu proclaims that he will bring salvation and redemption to all of the students attending Eden's Garden Academy. Despite his volatile demeanor, Tozu demonstrates surprising restraint when orchestrating the procedures of the killing game, almost as if his twisted rules have both structure and reason behind them. From what can be inferred, there's definitely a man behind the mask." Mara's bio reads, "Referred to as the enforcer of the killing game, Mara is possibly even more mysterious than the Headmaster Tozu. Armed to the teeth, no remorse will be shown whenever Mara needs to take action against any of the students who break the rules. Along with her towering height and silent but deadly attitude, fear will strike the heart of anybody that falls into her sights." So obviously they give off a much more menacing vibe than Monokuma. I think it's especially interesting that they're confirmed to be humans hiding behind masks, rather than them being animatronics. It makes me think that the tone of this game will be much more realistic and serious compared to the canon Danganronpa games, since, as we all know, although Monokuma is the enforcer, he's also very cartoonish and provides a lot of comic relief when the tone gets too serious. And I don't see much comic relief coming from these guys. My theory as to what they're trying to accomplish by holding this killing game has to do with all the Christian symbolism shown in the previews and trailers so far. To start, the academy the students were scouted for is called Eden's Garden Academy, referencing the Garden of Eden from the Bible. In the Bible, the Garden of Eden was meant to be a perfect place free of sin and immorality. In the game, Eden's Garden Academy recruits only the best and brightest who have mastered their respective talents. Because the school is so sought after, I'm sure it would seem like a perfect utopia to most people in the world, making it parallel the Bible location of being this perfect place. Another main aspect in the original story of the Garden of Eden is the introduction of sin to the human race. The Augustine Christian doctrine relates the story to the idea of original sin, which is the belief that everyone is born sinful and with a built-in urge to do bad things and disobey God. In the story of the Garden of Eden, they use the forbidden fruit to symbolize sin, and it's often depicted as an apple in media. This imagery appears throughout a lot of Project Eden's Garden's promotion, and I'm assuming in this game's case that the forbidden fruit is meant to symbolize murder. So my theory regarding the killing game is that Tozu and Mara are a part of a cult that takes the idea of original sin very seriously. They may think that the world is just like so drenched in sin that everybody needs to witness something truly horrific to wake them up. So they decided to take a group of America's best and brightest, 16 young people who were scouted and deemed as being flawless enough that they could enter the perfect utopia of Eden's Garden Academy and force them to participate in a killing game and broadcast it to the world. Their purpose is to tempt these seemingly perfect humans into sinning, aka murdering, in the killing game, and show to the rest of the world that everyone is truly evil and needs to repent. You may also notice that they both have masks that symbolize different animals. Tozu has on a mask that resembles a goat. In scripture, Satan is oftentimes depicted as a goat. More specifically, Tozu looks very similar to Baphomet, which is a goat-like man who became expressly associated with Satanism when it appeared as a depiction of the devil in the tarot card deck. As I'm sure most of you guys know, Satan is of course the enemy of God in Christianity, and although I don't think it's ever explicitly stated in the Bible, a lot of people have this mental image that Satan tortures and punishes sinners in hell for all of eternity. So I think the reason why Tozu is dressing up as Baphomet, aka Satan, is so in a way that he can take Satan's place as the one who punishes sinners, or those that he deems to be sinners. As for Mara, she's wearing a mask that resembles a Black Panther, which is often used as a way to symbolize punishment in the Bible. This goes hand in hand with her description as the Enforcer. The Panther symbolizes an unforgiving enemy who lies in wait for those who think they can escape. In terms of both speed and ferocity, humans cannot match a panther. The picture being painted here is that there's no option for escape. All doors closed and you must face the punishment. This quote that I found sounds perfect, especially if you think about her enforcing the punishments and executions on the students. It really gives the perfect visual of the culprit trying to run away with no actual hope of escape. But yeah, moving on, now it is finally time to talk about the main cast. First up is Damon Maitsu, who is the protagonist of the story and also the ultimate debater. There was never a doubt in Damon's mind that he was destined to be the ultimate debater. From an early age, Damon would argue with anyone who tried to confront him. This led him to learn how to argue from any position and any topic. Such frequent confrontations left Damon isolated from his peers, further leading him down the path of ignoring others solely to train his talent, with the hope that one day he will be admired by everybody for his skill. The first thing I noticed is he seems extremely different from the mainline Danganronpa protagonist. In previous Danganronpa games, I feel like all the protagonists, although different in personalities, tend to go through the same arc, which is to build confidence in themselves and their talent or lack thereof. But Damon seems to be completely opposite. He seems to obsess so much over his talent that he alienates himself from others. Because of this, I'm thinking his character arc may be him learning how to rely on others rather than his own talent. My idea of how this could go down is that since he seems so overconfident in his talent, I could see him really dominating the first class trials discussion. It also mentions in his bio that he's learned how to argue from any position on any topic, which implies to me that he can be extremely convincing even if he's wrong. So I think in the first trial, he'll have an idea already in his mind about how everything played out, and he'll just like run over anybody who tries to disagree to the point that he almost leads them to their death by making the wrong choice. So then maybe after his talent fails him in the first trial, his arc becomes about learning how to listen and rely on others. So at the beginning of the game, he starts out as this rude loner who only really cares about himself and his talent, but over time becomes friends with the rest of the participants. Also, it's notable that each character has an animal on their design. There's a theory that depending on whether or not the animal is a prey or a predator, it will determine whether or not the character is a culprit or a victim. I will say though, there are way more characters who have predators on them than preys. So if this theory was true, then that would mean that there was more killers than victims in the cast. Or it could be implying that there's going to be chapters with double murders, or maybe that characters with a predator animal at least indirectly kill others through their actions. But overall, it's an idea that I'm keeping in mind while going through all the characters, but I'm not going to be basing all of my predictions off this theory, just because I don't want to be too creatively restrained. As for Damon, he has a snake as his animal, which is a predator, and it's also the animal that Satan disguised himself as in the story of the Garden of Eden. So yeah, pretty sus. So I have a few conflicting ideas regarding him. First of all, this devilish symbolism and its connection to the Garden of Eden makes it seem like he could secretly be the mastermind, or at least be connected to them. But since I also think this killing game is run by an extremist cult, I could potentially see the game deciding to turn some of these symbols on their heads. What I mean is that a character who appears angelic at first and has like really holy symbolism will actually end up being evil, while a character like Damon, who obviously has flaws but is truly good deep down, will have evil demonic symbolism. I think the game would use this as a way to present the idea that people who are referred to as being evil and of the devil by religious extremists actually aren't, and that those who pretend to be perfect and and holy, or actually hiding a darker side than you can imagine. But since his symbolism is so closely connected to the Garden of Eden, which is what the title of this game is based on, I can't help but feel like that's implying some kind of connection to the mastermind. So I'm gonna list him as the mastermind, but I think there could be a twist that presents him in a good light by the end of the game. Like maybe he's connected to the cult organization that's putting this on, but he's working as a double agent and secretly helping the group while also appearing to follow their orders. Or he's a part of the cult, but truly changes his mind and regrets helping them by the end of the game. But yeah, overall, I am super duper conflicted on Damon. He's probably the character I'm the most conflicted on, to be honest, and that's why some of his ideas are more conflicting than a lot of the other characters I'm going to talk about. Next up is Eva Sunaka, the ultimate liar. In a killing game, you need to be able to trust those around you, but with the ultimate liar, is trust even possible? Eva has made it clear that she doesn't intend to lie to anybody, but how can we believe any promise she makes? Truly a quiet and mysterious figure, she often stares into the distance and makes you feel like anything you say to her is being completely ignored, as if she's lost in her own world of thought. Eva's also very conflicting to me because she's used in a lot of the promotional art, implying that she's going to be this important character, like she'll be Damon's support, and her personality is cold and antisocial too, similar to Damon's, which makes me think they might get along pretty well. But I'm leaning towards her being a red herring, and I'm overall guessing she'll be the first culprit, and I have two reasons for this. Firstly, in the story of the Garden of Eden, the character Eve, who Eva seems to be based off of, was the first human to be tempted by the devil into sinning. Since Eve was the first one to sin in the story that obviously inspired the project's name, I think it makes sense that she would be the first one to give into temptation in this game too. Secondly, her animal appears to be a crow, which is a predator and also is used symbolically as an omen for death. I think she'll be a character like Rantaro, where she's important to the story but dies early. I feel like the crow could also symbolize how she's a character that's more important to the story in death rather than when she's living. Since she's a liar too, I could see her telling the group some crucial information, either before she's executed or through a note that they find later on. And then since she's a liar, they'll be unsure of what parts they can actually trust regarding her message. But yeah, these are my thoughts on Eva so far. Next up is Desmond Hall, and he is the ultimate marksman. If there's a target, then Desmond can hit it. Doesn't matter how fast or how far. As the ultimate marksman, Desmond can land his shots with whatever ranged weapon of his choice. Favoring the bow, his precision is feared in competition, and is only contrasted by his upbeat demeanor towards helping his friends accomplish their goals. Although his talent has to do with a weapon and his animal is a shark, a predator, his bio mentions that he dislikes violence, and he seems super friendly and upbeat, which I thought was pretty interesting. It also mentions that he dislikes rain, likely because it makes hitting his targets more difficult. Based on his likes and dislikes, I came up with a theory for what his trauma dump would be. Basically, my idea is that when he first began using a gun, he was practicing on a rainy day, and he accidentally shot an animal instead of the bullseye target he was aiming for. And then seeing the animal suffer from his own mistake traumatized him and made him vow to never shoot living creatures. And because of that, he only shoots inanimate objects now. Overall, I think he'll be a softie who tries to bring the group together. The only way I see him being a killer is if he kills somebody who's planning to murder. Like maybe if he sees them trying to attack another person from a distance and shoots them to protect somebody else. But if he really does hate violence from trauma, like I theorize, then I think that'd be kind of difficult. So I'm deciding to label him as a victim, and he's one of the reasons why I didn't want to fully commit to the predator-prey theory, since I just really don't see him killing anybody. Next up is Eloise Tallner, and she is the ultimate fencer. Greeting everyone with a warm smile, Eloise makes sure to show up for her practice on time every day with the goal of improving, but don't be deceived by the ultimate fencer's size, as she is extremely agile with a saber. While advancing towards her opponents is common practice in fencing, she prefers to lay low and blend in with the crowd during social encounters, and is always ready to make her escape if anybody gets too close. The first thing that really stood out to me about her design is just like how sad her eyes look, especially in comparison to the other characters. She seems so sweet and innocent that it almost makes me want to suspect her, but I really have no reason for it other than that. So I'm leaning overall towards her actually being a survivor, mostly because I think I can picture a pretty good character arc for her based on her bio. I have a theory that she was bullied heavily growing up, possibly because of her weight, and the reason for this is because her bio mentions that she prefers to not stand out in crowds and that she doesn't want to let others get close to her. So I think it's likely that she's been bullied around large groups and betrayed by people that she used to consider friends in the past. My other reason for thinking this is that her animal is the swan, which is associated with the super popular children's story The Ugly Duckling, and the story was about a duckling that was bullied by the others for looking different, but it turned out that they were a swan and grew up to be much more beautiful than the others who bullied them. I'm hoping that her arc in the game will mirror this. My idea is that she'll become friends with Diana, who is the ultimate cosmetologist, since her bio seems to compliment Eloise's a lot. It mentions how Diana strives to help everybody become the best versions of themselves, so I'm hoping that through a makeover or something like that, Diana will be able to encourage Eloise to come out of her shell, and then this will lead to that character arc that I have in mind. Next up is Toshiko Kiura, and she is the ultimate matchmaker. She may be shy, but just ask Toshiko about her talent and her eyes will light up brighter than the sun. As the ultimate matchmaker, it's both her job and responsibility to help everyone find their true love. Her caring and confident demeanor makes you believe that your perfect match is waiting for you somewhere in the world, but don't be taken off guard when she throws occasional shade your direction. Her animal is the flamingo, which is used to symbolize beauty, balance, potential, and romance, which is perfect for somebody with the talent of matchmaker. I've learned that I don't trust children in this genre because my immediate thought after seeing her design and profile was that she was evil and a killer, but in my defense, I do find her bio to be kind of suspicious. She seems a lot more like a troublemaker than a matchmaker to me, especially since her bio mentions that she likes reality TV. And as somebody who enjoys reality TV a lot more than I would like to admit, I gotta say, I don't trust anybody who likes reality TV, especially if she's gonna pretend that she watches it for like the love aspect. You think I watch Love is Blind because I want to see true love? Nah, baby, I'm in it for the drama, for the trash of it all. And then when you think about these types of shows, it's very rare that a couple actually stays together too. So that combined with the comment about her throwing shade just makes me think her caring about people finding true love is fake, and instead she really just enjoys the drama that comes with it. I'm gonna label her as a victim, but only because I lean more towards the idea of her indirectly causing a murder by causing drama through matchmaking the other characters. I can see somebody getting fed up with her meddling and killing her because of that. She also gives me Sayonji vibes too, where she'll be like really antagonistic towards the group, and I think that would make her too obvious to be a legitimate culprit. Although I do think a matchmaker execution would be really creepy, having like all these symbols of love around her while she's getting executed. And especially if they decide to make this set based off of like a reality TV show, that would be so creepy. Next up is Winona, and she is the ultimate entrepreneur. As one of the youngest billionaires in the country, Winona redefines what it means to be a ruthless businesswoman. The ultimate entrepreneur rules over the agricultural sector, owning over 90% of the farmland and naturally growing produce. Rarely does the public get to see this elusive CEO, but when they do, they quickly realize how cold and determined she can be, only willing to discuss the potential profits and projections of her operations in the upcoming financial quarter. Okay, so she's like literally the most beautiful person I've ever seen in my life, and because of that, I 100% forgive her for everything she hasn't even done yet. But unfortunately, I do think she's totally evil. So billionaires have gained a lot of criticism over the past few years. Firstly, because $1 billion is just such an inconceivably large amount. So I found this hypothetical online, and it states that if you are making $250,000 a year, which is more than triple the US median family income of 2020, it would take you 4,000 years to make $1 billion. I feel like that example gives you a decent picture in mind of just like how much money that is. And billionaires are known for having this exorbitant amount of wealth while underpaying and exploiting their employees. So really, in my opinion, there's just no excuse not to treat your employees better if you make that much. But you might be thinking, Weeby, Winona's different. She's a good girl. Well, I hate to break it to you, but she's not. It literally shows in her profile that she dislikes unions. I've never seen a bigger red flag in my life. And I'm assuming this is referring to labor unions, which are groups that try to promote like higher wages and better work protections for employees. So yeah, it seems like exploiting her workforce seems to be something she enjoys very much based off of that. So I'm gonna label her as a killer. Honestly, she seems pretty selfish and unsympathetic, so I definitely see her potentially killing somebody. It is interesting that she's Native American and a woman though. I bet it was like extremely difficult for her to work her way from the ground up to become a billionaire, and it makes me think that the discrimination she faced is likely what led her to have such a cutthroat personality. I think her animal being a bear was likely meant to imply that her personality is vicious too, and even though I've listed a bunch of red flags and I've stated explicitly that I think she's evil, I gotta say she's my favorite female character. And I just want to clarify that I'm not saying I agree with any of the stuff I'm accusing her of doing. I just think it'd be interesting to see a morally corrupt billionaire in the killing game. I know we had Tagami as the ultimate affluent progeny, but since he was gaining his company from his family, I feel like it's pretty different. Since she built her company from the ground up, I imagine at first she cared about her employees, but over time became more and more greedy, and I think that would really affect her personality and how she presents herself in the killing game. Also, yes, she's very pretty, and that's another big reason why I like her. Don't judge me. Next up is Ulysses Wilhelm, and he is the ultimate historian. If we do not learn from our history, we are doomed to repeat it. Ulysses knows this lesson well, and as the ultimate historian, spending every waking moment reading and researching the histories of human civilizations to the point of exhaustion, Ulysses is determined to memorize as much as he can, even at the cost of his own health and sanity. Known for carrying around a notebook, he makes sure that every interaction he has is always recorded for future review. He seems like somebody who will be really helpful during class trials, since it mentions that he records every interaction he has. I can definitely see that coming up in trials to help with alibis and stuff. And then the quote, "Those that fail to learn from history are doomed to repeat it," seems like a really important quote that I think could reflect how he responds to the killing game. The structure of the killing game makes betrayal and murder repeat literally every chapter, so I could see him trying to lead the group to make sure another murder doesn't happen, and then blaming himself when history inevitably repeats itself. His animal, the owl too, usually symbolizes wisdom, which I think reflects the idea of how smart he is being a historian, and how he could be a good leader because of the wisdom he's gained from his talent. If he does lead the group, I could see him getting really depressed and beaten down in later chapters, since he's unable to stop history from repeating itself. I think he'll begin to doubt himself and his talent, and this will make him an easy target, so I'm gonna list him as a victim. I don't know why, but I see him as a chapter 4 victim for some reason. Next up is Mark Mayhem Bursky, and he is the ultimate music producer. He may be the quietest person in the room, but Mark lets his music speak for itself. As the ultimate music producer, Mark takes the best sounds of the musicians he works with, mixes them together, and ends up with a derivative piece of art that perfectly encapsulates the emotion he wants the listener to feel. He often uses his musical talent to substitute for his lack of social interaction, always preferring to stay out of the spotlight. I love his alligator hat so freaking much, it's so cute. Alligators are really fierce predators though, and I do feel like one of their most notable traits is how stealthy they are at hiding while stalking their prey, and since it seems like Mark is the quiet type, I feel like it could be foreshadowing that he'll be a quiet and calculative killer and the victim won't see him coming. But that's just an idea based off of his adorable little hat, and since his bio mentions that he lets music speak for himself, I could see him creating some songs dedicated to a victim or a culprit that he was really close with, as a way to share his feelings and mourning of them. I overall think that'd be a really beautiful scene, so I hope they do that. He's honestly a really big mystery to me, so I'm gonna label him as a victim, just because it's the easiest label to give somebody. It also mentions that he dislikes bugs, and I was wondering if that was maybe meant to foreshadow that he won't get along with Cassidy and Kai, since they have bugs as their creatures, but that's just another idea that I have. Next up is Diana Venecia, and she is the ultimate cosmetologist. In a world of stages and bright lights, the ultimate cosmetologist is here to make everybody beautiful. Before working as a personal stylist for some of the biggest names in media, Diana was a simple girl trying to make it through high school. Being friends with the most popular group in her school had its advantages, and gave this happy-go-lucky artist the opportunity she needed to show off her talents and pursue her goal of helping everybody discover the best versions of themselves. And yeah, so I have a lot to say about her. Her bio makes her sound really cute and really sweet. Her dislike of drama and encouraging personality is what makes me think she could be a good influence on Eloise, but unfortunately she's sus as hell. So firstly, her talent as the ultimate cosmetologist has to do with beauty, which reminds me a bit of Junko. She also has pink hair and pigtails like Junko too, and this might seem like a really big stretch at first, but what made me pay attention to this in the first place is her shirt emblem, and it looks a lot like Hope's Peak Academy. And she's the only character that has a design that looks so similar to Hope's Peak. Her animal as well appears to be a chameleon, and chameleons have the ability to change their color. So I think this could reflect how she's able to change her appearance with her expertise in makeup, or it could maybe imply that she's good at hiding who she really is. If the creators are lying about this not connecting to the main game and she's like Junko in disguise or something, I will literally cry myself to sleep for a month. I do think they are telling the truth about wanting to separate this project from the mainline Danganronpa games, and because of that, I'm gonna say that she's a red herring and will be a victim, but we will see! It just seems too obvious for her to be the mastermind in my opinion, but I still felt like all the stuff was interesting to point out, and because of that I will still be keeping an eye on her regardless. Next up is Wolfgang Akire, and he is the ultimate lawyer. Finding a successful lawyer at an age as young as Wolfgang is an accomplishment of its own right. Successfully defending over 200 of his clients without dropping a single case, this ultimate lawyer promises that only the truth and evidence will lead to a conclusion. An earnest and soft-spoken gentleman, he makes sure that everybody is fairly represented and that only facts and logic drive the discussion, even if at times it becomes counterproductive in the trials he participates in. I was really shocked at first by how nice his bio made him sound. I feel like a lot of the times in fiction, lawyers are presented as being pretty scummy, so it was really different than what I expected. It seems like he and Damon, although having similar talents, have really opposite personalities too. Damon's bio makes him seem very antagonistic and like he only really cares about getting his point across and winning, while Wolfgang's bio specifies that he's soft-spoken and wants everybody to be fairly represented. Because of how opposite they seem, I'm gonna go ahead and guess that this guy is going to be the rival character, and if my theory about Damon almost leading the group to death in the first trial is correct, then I imagine it would be Wolfgang who calls him out on his BS and is able to turn the discussion around. I imagine him going on a big rant about how Damon needs to learn to listen to everybody to make the discussion work. Another thing that's interesting about him is that he dislikes lies, which makes it seem like he'll really dislike Eva too. And if Damon and Eva become close, then that would be another reason for them to dislike each other. But it's weird because all of this makes it seem like Wolfgang is the good guy and Damon's the jerk. Wolfgang's animal is a sheep too, which is also interesting because in Christianity it symbolizes a follower of God, and there's also the title of Lamb of God, which literally refers to Jesus. So this symbolism makes Wolfgang seem like a perfect angel. On the other hand, like I mentioned before, Damon's animal is a snake, which represents the devil in the Garden of Eden, and all this symbolism really makes it seem like we're playing as the villain. Another interesting theory one of you guys pointed out was by Leah M. New, and they mentioned how his animal symbol is a sheep, but his name is Wolfgang, and this could symbolize the popular phrase, a wolf in sheep's clothing, so potentially the kind, soft-spoken lawyer act could just be a front, and he's actually a predator in disguise. And he's a big reason why I mentioned before, I think this game may turn some of these symbols on their heads. And so then a character like Wolfgang, who has this angelic symbolism and seems so pure and holy, ends up just being a person who pretends to be like that and is actually hiding a darker side than you can imagine. Since I think he's evil and I think he's going to be a rival, I'm going to go ahead and put him down as a killer. I do want to say I think he's going to be like a twist killer though. It's not going to just be like he kills and then he's convicted and that's it. I think he'll kind of be like Oma or Kamaida where there's like a really big conspiracy around it. I think it'd be interesting if he was a killer and he actually like succeeds at tricking the group. And I think it would make sense for him since he's a lawyer too. So maybe in the 5th chapter, he successfully convinces everybody that Damon did it or something. And then they all vote wrong and are all sentenced to be executed. But then like right before they get executed, the game shuts down or something along those lines to where they can still continue playing. But I could see something like that happening. And I do also want to say that he is my best boy so far, mostly because of all these implications. I think he'll be a really interesting character. Next up is Kai Montego, and he is the ultimate influencer. Being the center of attention has always been natural for Kai. As the ultimate influencer, most of the day is spent posting on social media and talking to followers. But Kai doesn't just love the spotlight, he also loves creating drama and conflict, knowing that his army of fans will follow him to the end of time, and that he is not afraid to utilize them. Kai might be the most charismatic, yet terrifying person you'll ever cross paths with. One of you guys in the comments says that he gives you Mitch energy, and I will never forgive you for saying that, because he's actually one of my favorite designs. But to be fair, he would be the Mitch of this game if there was one. He's definitely giving me like problematic influencer who thinks he's never done anything wrong in his whole entire life, especially since it literally says in his bio that he dislikes apologizing. I thought maybe he'd be smart and good at manipulating because he's an influencer, but that dislike really makes me think he's not actually smart at all. I like to theorize that he's been canceled like 20 times by the internet, and then the only reason he still has a fan base is just because he's a cute e-boy. I feel like he's one of those like cringy TikTok e-boys. Thirst trap ASMR videos. I definitely get that vibe from him. I can totally see him trying to kill somebody and failing, so I'm just gonna list him as a victim. I would really love it if he was a culprit though, and gave like a shit tier YouTuber apology after the trial. And I do think an influencer execution would be really cool and creepy too. But yeah, overall I'm kind of still leaning towards victim. Also, his animal is the butterfly, and I feel like it could be meant to portray his good looks, since it's a creature that's known for its unique beauty. Next up is Jet Dawson, and he is the ultimate drag racer. Being both the hottest and fastest drag racer in the country has made Jet an icon in competitive racing. But after an accident just over a year ago left him burned and scarred, he decided to take a break from competing while he healed. The public has not seen his face since then, and mystery surrounds him wherever he goes. But he promises once his body fully fully heals, that'll get right back into action with all the same fiery passion and enthusiasm that he has today. His animal is the coyote, which generally symbolizes cleverness, cunningness, and intelligence. His design reminds me a lot of the Black Rider from Danganronpa. I wonder if his design was inspired by that character at all. And his backstory is really sad, and I feel like it'll be a really big part of him. I don't know if it means hottest as in looks, but if so, I can see him and Kai butting heads a lot. If he was previously this really attractive, rich, famous guy, I'm sure it was really jarring to lose his handsome face. And if he's more famous than Kai, I could see Kai getting upset if Jet is like stealing his attention. And if Kai is as petty as I think he is, then I could totally see him making comments about how Jet is disfigured under his mask or something like that. I gotta say, I do like the idea of him being a legitimate drag racer. Like, you pull off his helmet and he's just like yassified. Jokes aside though, I have a really bad feeling that his scarring is super bad and that it's something he's really insecure about. One of the reasons is because he dislikes showers. And I feel like the reason for that is because he has to see his entire body and all the scars he accumulated from that accident. I'm sure it's a lot easier for him when he's fully covered. I overall see him being a killer. One of the reasons is because I feel like he could be more easily swayed by motives. Like if there's a motive that threatens to show his injuries if he doesn't kill within a certain time frame, or if there's a money reward for killing that could help him pay for his surgeries. Even if he's rich, surgeries can be very expensive, so I'm sure he could be low on money trying to pay for everything, especially since these people are supposed to be from America. Also, a drag race execution just seems so perfect in my opinion. There's just so much you could do with that. Like, I imagine him like riding around the track until he crashes. Next up is Ingrid Grimwall, and she is the ultimate blacksmith. Forging the sharpest steel in the fires of her backyard, Ingrid was determined to brand her mark in history with her weapons. While most wars are fought today with ranged weapons, the ultimate blacksmith finds beauty in the melee weapons of old, in both their shapes and fighting styles. Great practice and attention to detail is required to forge the blades of warriors past, and those made by Ingrid are sure to slice cleanly through your opponents, or just look good hanging over a fireplace. Her animal is the lion, which has a lot of Christian symbolism. According to a sermon by Augustine, the lion stands for Christ resurrected. If my theory about turning the more holy symbols on its head is true, then this could imply that she's got a dark side like Wolfgang. In all the canon Danganronpa games, the buff character is always kind and like a gentle giant type, so it would be interesting to actually have a buff character who is evil. This is all completely my speculation though, and not really based on too much. I'm gonna list her as a killer, but honestly the main reason for this is because she dislikes small spaces, and I think it would be such a freaky execution idea to have her die in a small space, especially if you mix it with her talent of being a blacksmith. I can imagine her being inside like one of those magician boxes, and then the swords keep slicing through until the space is so small that she dies from suffocation. And another thing about her is that she does seem like she could be a big help in trials too, if we have to determine what weapon was used, if it's not listed in the death file. I'm also curious to see how her and Desmond get along too, since they both have talents that are related to combat. Next up is Grace Madison, and she is the ultimate golfer. The pressure of competing against the ultimate golfer leaves many of her opponents afraid of ever meeting her face to face on the green. Grace wants the world to know that she will continue to crush any challenger that tries to claim her title, relentlessly defending her ultimate status. Those who have once friended this firecracker athlete eventually walk away broken and scarred by their interactions with her, questioning if she's willing to burn every bridge on her way to the top. Her bio, combined with a screenshot that they shared recently of her in the prologue, makes her seem like a pretty antagonistic character. She gives me really big Miyu vibes so far. Her animal is a rabbit too, and I think it could potentially symbolize that although she puts on a tough appearance, on the inside she's as timid as a bunny. So overall, I see her being a victim. I feel like she'll be one of those characters that talks really big about killing and doing what it takes to win, but would be too scared to actually pull it off. Next up is Jean Delamer, and he is the ultimate ship captain. Nothing but the open sea and his crew, Jean loves traveling all around the world on his cargo ship, delivering goods to some of the largest ports in the world. The energetic and sometimes hard to control ship captain wants the world to know of all of his triumphs and stories he's collected over the years of being at sea. Protective of his crew, he wants to make sure that everybody under his guidance and direction are doing their best to make his ship run smoothly. His bio makes him sound pretty nice and like he could be a pretty good leader too, especially since it mentions him liking group projects. The idea of him being sometimes hard to control sort of makes me think that maybe after a few murders happen, he may make his own group to lead if he was following somebody else like Ulysses previously. And if the predator-prey theory that I mentioned before is true, then this guy must go on like a major killing spree, since his animal is literally a dragon. It's also notable that in Christian traditions, the dragon is seen as being a symbol of evil, and so I'm gonna go with my theory that those with bad symbolism are good. And so because of that, I think he'll be a good dude with some very noticeable flaws, like not following directions rejection or being overly controlling of those in his group. Because of this too, I'm going to list him as a survivor. I could see him surviving the killing game and learning how to overcome these flaws. And you know what? It's about time a swole person lives through a Danganronpa game. And then last but not least is Cassidy Amber, and she is the ultimate pro gamer. Whether it's a first-person shooter or a 2D fighter game, Cassidy makes her true power shine with her controller in hand. Her devoted fanbase, known online as Cassidy's Comrades, cheer on this ultimate pro gamer at every tournament she attends. Her very presence can energize the venues, and she keeps her raw attitude front and center, letting you know she refuses to let anybody be pushed around, including herself. Her animal is the spider, which can be used to symbolize artistry, patience, and female empowerment. So the most interesting thing about her design to me is that she has this really tiny, adorable Hoge under her hat. And I find it really interesting that she's the only other character aside from Damon to have an Hoge. So I think if there is going to be a protagonist switch, it would be her. And I also feel like playing as her could add like a meta aspect to the game as well, like playing a game as the ultimate pro gamer. And also I just find the idea of playing as her with that little tiny Hoge hilarious. And although her personality does seem to be kind of like loud and aggressive, it does seem like she is a good person at heart, since it mentions that she refuses to let anybody be pushed around, and because of that I could see her making a pretty good upstanding protagonist. And I find it interesting that she's a pro gamer and that her specialty is competitive games. As a woman in the gaming sphere, I really haven't gotten that much crap regarding it, but I think the only reason for it is because I play like visual novels and non-competitive games. Entering a public Call of Duty lobby is a whole different story. So I have a feeling she's had to deal with a lot of crap trying to prove herself as a competent player in that field. And I kind of wonder if she does political streaming too on the side or something, since she refers to her fans as Cassidy's Comrades, and it states that she likes revolutions. If she really is like anti-capitalism, then I really look forward to her interactions with the ultimate billionaire, ultimate entrepreneur. It'll be interesting to see if they do dislike each other, since I feel like they do have in common that they're both strong women who are likely discriminated against in their field. But based off of their bios, it does seem like they disagree on some pretty big stuff too. But I could be overthinking it. It was just kind of something interesting I wanted to point out. But overall, I'm gonna list her as a survivor. Her Hoge and the G Fuel running through her veins gives her power. I'm half kidding. I do think she'll be a survivor though, mostly because I do see her potentially being a protagonist switch character, but that's just a theory, a game theory. Anyways, this will conclude the video. Here is the list of everything I guessed. Like I said, I'm not totally dedicated to this. These are just kind of my first impressions and different ideas I have of what they could do with each character and where they could take the story. But yeah, let me know what you guys think in the comments below. And if you guys want to fill out that little sheet that I made too and post it on the subreddit, I would love to see what your predictions are. I am super duper looking forward to this game. I cannot believe the prologue is coming out so soon, and I hope you guys are looking forward to it as well. Be sure to give them some love too. I'll be linking Project Eden's Garden's social links in the description. But yeah, please do leave a like and a comment and subscribe if you enjoyed this video, and I will see you real soon.